Well, everybody. We're back with another episode of Bodacious Rant, starring, of course, your ever so handsome and swarthy and mystical Burn Rye. Again, in like our last review, which was the Chris Pratt movie Mercy, we're definitely in January, and, we've had some hope with video game adaptations in recent years. Like, we had the Fallout series going on, which is really good still. Oh my god. And then Mario Brothers did really well. We had Fallout last year, which was okay. But man, this is like what we're going to talk about is almost like early 2000s video game adaptation in the quote unquote bold, italic, underlined worst way possible. And we're talking about the newest addition to a cult classic franchise, which is Return to Silent Hill, directed by the same guy who did the one from 2006, Christopher Gans, or Gans. I don't know how you say his name. I apologize. I believe he's a French director, but this is also spoiler free, as much as I don't want to talk about this one, but you know what? We watched it, so you don't have to. Give us that thumbs up if you do happen to like our commentary, you like tuning in with me and Burn. Ring the bell for notifications, and of course subscribe, which we do appreciate you all joining in and checking out our videos whenever you can, so thank you so much. But yeah, so Return to Silent Hill it feels very much like a reboot of the franchise. It has nothing to do with the last two movies that came out over 10 years ago, which was Silent Hill and then Silent Hill Revelations, which I remember red boxing, and that was all I remember. I don't remember the movie at all whatsoever. And this one stars the guy from Warhorse. I forget his name off the top of my head, but that's all I've really seen.
Jeremy Irvine.
Thank you, Jeremy Irvine, who plays... What was the main character's name, Bernie? Do you remember?
Yeah, James Sunderland.
James Sunderland,
main character of, for people who don't know, the second Silent Hill game from 2001.
Thank you. And to let me get that out there first. I've never really played the Silent Hill games. It's just never been on my radar. I know of it because of the movies, and I think some of it's really interesting. I know that there was going to be the Silent Hill game with Norman Reedus, but that never came to fruition. So this one is where James is going back to Silent Hill because he's still guilty about what happened with his wife, and he goes to try and find her. Very much like a typical video game plot in general, or just like a horror movie plot. And, people were really... I feel like people were really excited when this movie got announced, especially the teaser, very much like the typical shot of like you're walking into Silent Hill. It's all super foggy and it's got great atmosphere. Like you feel like you're in a horror video game / movie already. But that's as far as it goes, man. I think I don't even know what decision was behind this, because this director did not do great with the first one, even though it's considered a cult classic, and this one was worse, which is amazing to do in the worst way again. Before I get too negative and really start being just such a negative Nancy, Bernie, why don't you tell everybody what your thoughts on the movie were, maybe to help me see some positives in it, if there are any.
Well, I don't know if I can do that for you, but I will give you my thoughts. So for me, I'm a new fan of the Silent Hill games. Just recently I played the Silent Hill 2 remake that came out a couple years ago, and then and last year's Silent Hill F. And this movie is sort of a loose adaptation of that second game that the remake was for. So I have a little bit of knowledge of this universe, a specific story, this character, and this journey that James Sunderland goes through in the game. So I was coming into this one with a little bit more knowledge than I did when I saw that initial Silent Hill movie, like you mentioned, from 2006. So it's one of those things where the way I approach video game adaptations is how I do for everything. Like I'm fine with it not being super accurate. I'm okay with there being liberties taken. There's being some additions, just something to make it different because I've already played the games. I've experienced the stories. I don't want to just see that again. I want to see an interpretation of it, or even something completely different where we're not adapting these characters exactly, but we're using the sort of the world and the elements and telling a new story with it, much like how Fallout the series has been doing these last couple of years. So those are the ways that I approach these things. So even when something isn't one to one, it doesn't necessarily bother me if they're doing something interesting with what they're the story that they're telling. And so this being an adaptation of the second game, me having played it, I wasn't again looking for an exact replica of it, but I was hoping to see something, it being told in a way that could be digested by people who hadn't played the video games and people who aren't familiar with the story, because it's a really good story that touches on a lot of really deep and personal and psychological things. That's what the fun thing about these Silent Hill games is, that they're the manifestations. You're playing through sort of the character's inner turmoil, and I was hoping that this movie could sort of give us something like that. And it does it in probably the worst ways possible, which is unfortunate. And Christoph Gans coming back really didn't make me like any more excited for this movie, because again, I wasn't really too much of a fan of the first one. So I was like, okay, maybe he wasn't the right guy to do this one, and it certainly feels that way because of the way that this movie is made. To say that this is very Sci-Fi Channel Hallmark esque would be giving it a little bit too much praise, I feel like, because this feels like even worse than amateur. Like, I don't want to like knock any sort of like student films. They're certainly better. A lot of them could certainly be considered better than this, because I just don't think he understands this subject matter. The script here just sort of fumbles all the interesting things again from the games, where it's like, okay, I'm fine with adaptation, but do something interesting with it. They really do the opposite. They do things that just leave you questioning, like, why were these decisions made? And unfortunately, like Jeremy Irvine will probably get the brunt of the criticism here, because he's not that very good in this role. But it's hard to put that all on him because the script is bad. The CGI is horrible. There are some elements of the set designs, the audio, some of the music is good, but it's never enough to really fully like envelop you into this world. There's a thing that happens that throughout this whole movie where characters are running around with a flashlight, and it just makes the whole thing feel cheap. And the way that the movie gets lit because of it, the way that the characters interact with the environment, that's just a minor nitpick of mine, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're working with as a whole here. This just truly feels like, we're, like you mentioned, like we're back in the early 2000s of video game adaptations, where none of the progress of the last few years mattered at all, because we're just smack dab right back in to the things that as video game fans you really don't want to see in the adaptations. And yeah, to get something like this for a story as widely acclaimed in the video game sphere with Silent Hill 2, they adapted it in the worst possible way, and that's unfortunate for fans and for movie viewers alike, because as a movie experience is bad, as an adaptation it's certainly a lot worse. So yeah, I don't see how this is pleasing to anybody on the spectrum of where you fall on that line.
Honestly, some of the worst ones in recent years were, in my opinion, the Five Nights at Freddy's movies, Until Dawn last year, which was just god awful. But out of all of those, the strongest one for me is Until Dawn, and I freaking hated that movie last year, because at least it was, a fresh new cast that have some talent, like Odessa Zion was in that one. And yeah, no offense to Jeremy Irvine, because I loved Warhorse. That was a great movie back in the day. But yeah, I'm not gonna blame him. I think it was just bad direction, bad script, and yes, the effects were god awful. This felt like a pirated movie where it was just horrible quality. Just, you could definitely tell this is all completely fake. There's like no sense of getting sucked into this world. And Man, if I could give this movie a 0, I definitely would. There is really nothing salvageable for me for this one. But I will say, you know what? You can say at least they tried. At least I'm going to be nice about it. They all tried, but this one's a 1 out of 5. Definitely don't recommend this to anyone, even if you're a horror fan, a video game fan, because this is just going to piss you off on both. So, yeah. Utter garbage film, dumpster fire, don't recommend it. Maybe when it comes out to streaming if you want to, even then. Your time is better off watching something like Landman, for instance, and that one's already getting a lot of crap online. But yeah, definitely don't recommend this one.
No, this is definitely one that you can recommend to any crowd, like you mentioned. Like the horror crowd is not gonna like it. I don't think the video game fans are certainly not gonna like this. And for people who are just looking for a good movie, you can find a better one on at like 2 p.m. on a random channel probably. Yeah, this one it's just one that it's unfortunate. You don't want movies like this to happen, and I don't think any of the creatives involved want a movie like this to happen. But this is unfortunately what we got, and what we got was like you said, it's a bit of a dumpster fire, and it's unfortunate that this had to happen. But yeah, so for me, this is going to be a 1 out of 5 also. I don't want to keep talking because I don't want to beat a dead horse and bag more on this movie than it already has, because yeah, this is just one of those where let's just forget about it as quickly as we can.
Yeah, well, there's some other stuff coming out, in January and then February. I think the one I'm looking forward to the most right now is not the Send Help one. That one does look interesting. The Bride is coming out in March, and then Ready or Not 2, I believe, is coming out next month, so I got to rewatch the first one. But until next time, everyone, as always, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for the both of us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.